What's going on, YouTube? How are you guys? So I'm back with another video. So let's go and talk about these school shootings. If you guys look in society, you see school shootings happening almost every day. School shootings keep happening. Teenagers, adults keep walking into schools and just keep shooting it up, especially right here in America. But now you're starting to see these incidents happen more around the world. And we're going to talk about why these things are happening. I'm just going to get straight to it. The main reason why these school shootings keep happening is really due to two reasons: them taking pride off the school and the type of generation that we're in. You see, in America, they took pride off the school, I believe, in the mid 60s. Before pride used to be in the school. You have to examine the history of something before you guys put blame on something. Because people nowadays want to blame guns and say guns are evil and we need to ban guns and all this stuff. Listen, guys, I'm going to break down the history of America to you. In America, in the 1950s and 40s, in the early 1900s to mid 1900s in America, teens used to carry rifles to school. You used to see teens carrying rifles to school. It was a common thing, especially in places like down south. And guess what? There was almost no mass shootings back then. Take a guess why. Because America, society, had a big principle in the Bible. People believed in the Bible. People believed in family. People believed that they killed someone unrighteously, they'll go to hell. There was a strong emphasis on biblical principles. That's why even though kids used to carry rifles to school back then, there was almost no mass shootings because there was a strong fear of God in society. Of course, society wasn't perfect because it had racism and all that happening, but there was still a fear of God. Prayer was required in schools. People knew about the principles of God. But you see, you guys took prayers off the schools. You guys took God out of the situation. And you already know when you take God out of something, you invite nothing but Satan in. This is what kind of confuses me sometimes. People take God out of a situation and they get confused when something happens. They get confused when bad stuff starts happening, when chaos starts happening. They get confused when Satan shows up, when demons show up, when fallen angels show up. What do you expect to happen? You took God out. You took him out of the situation. You basically left on your own. You see, guys, when you're living life without God, when you're doing stuff without God, you're basically running your own life. You're basically taking chances at a high risk. Because when God is not involved, anything could happen to you. It's like you're playing a Monopoly game. It's like you're doing a lottery. There's so many chances that could happen. There's so many risks that could happen. And you see, you guys took pride off the school. Now look what's happening. Look at the chaos that's happening. Almost every day you see kids walking in, adults walking in, just shooting the whole school up, just tearing the whole school down. And now, what makes it worse, I'm going to get to the second point, the society that we're in, the generation that we're in. You see, this generation, many of these young people that's coming up, it's even a lot of these adults, many of them are very ungodly. Many of them want nothing to do with God. You see, America and many of you countries around the world, you guys took God out of it. You guys basically limited the biblical principles. It's like you guys don't want to hear the Bible. You guys don't want to hear the principles of God. People just want to live how they want to live. Society wants to go how they want to go. So you have a generation that's coming up that don't care about the principles of God. They don't care about the Bible. They don't care about living a certain type of lifestyle in front of God. Many of these people in this generation, especially all these young people, they're very ungodly. They're ungodly. They diss God. They mock God. They live any type of life they want. Now you got teenagers. I'm talking about, I see this on the internet all the time. You got teenagers who are like 14 and 15 talk about they got like 50 and 60 bodies. If in case you guys don't know what bodies are, I mean it's people that they slept with, people that they had intercourse with. And that's crazy to me is you guys are barely teenagers, and you guys got more bodies than some people who are in their 60s and 70s. Okay, you know, people back in the older days, they would marry young and they'll be with that one person their whole lives. You got men and women who only been with one partner, which is their spouse their whole lives. They have no other person. And they've been together 50, 60, 70, 80 years married. And yet you got some young 12 and 13-year-old who got more bodies than them, who been with more people than them. And they're like 5 and 6 and 7 times younger than that older person. That's crazy. But you see, that's the generation that we're in. That's the society that we're in. A lot of these young people, you can't tell them nothing. They believe what they want to believe in, and they want to go down the path that they want to go. They don't want to hear nothing about God. And since so many of them don't want to hear nothing about God, that's why many of them are just doing whatever they want. That's why to them, murdering somebody not even nothing to a lot of these people. You got these rappers talk about how many bodies they got, how many people they killed in the streets. And you got a lot of young people listening to these rappers. Look at all these demonic rappers like King Von and all these people that came up. What do you expect? What do you expect? Look at the music a lot of these young people support. Look at the music that even a lot of the older people support. Look at the lifestyles that people live in society. Very few people nowadays care about God and care about following the will of God. Many people, they proclaim God with their lips, but their hearts, their actions are far away from Him. So what do you guys expect? What do you guys expect to happen? Almost every day you turn the news, you see all these mass shootings happening. You see somebody walking into schools, 5 people shot dead. 10 people shot dead, 20 people shot dead. Almost every second there's a mass shooting happening. And you see, guys, this was not a common occurrence back then. This is why when people want to blame guns, you guys better know your history, because guns are not the issue. They ain't the main issue. It's society becoming ungodly. Society taking prayer off the school. Society neglecting God. Look at the stuff that people fight for nowadays. Look at the lifestyles that people are living. And yet you guys expect the presence of God to encamp around many of these places, to encamp around many of these schools? Come on, guys. You guys cannot take God out. You guys cannot remove God from a situation and expect it to go in your favor. And you see what the sad thing is? These stuff is going to keep happening. These school shootings are going to keep happening. Until you guys finally put God back in school. Until you guys finally put prayer back in school. And until society starts living according to the standard of God. And until all these people, especially all these young people, start going after the principles of God. Until they become rooted in the Word of God. Until that happens, you're going to see all this chaos start happening in society. You're going to see these young people demonized. I see this all the time. I see this many times in the streets. You got these young people, even younger than me. They walk around, you could tell by looking at them that they demonized. They over there, they high off their weed. Their pants are sagging. They over there coked out of their head. Alcohol is drunk all over the place. Many of them, when you look in their eyes, you see almost nothing. It's almost like there's no soul there. They're just like a zombie just walking around. It's like the only thing that's moving is their flesh. But inside, there's nothing. They're spiritually dead. They're physically alive, but they're spiritually dead. That weed and that drugs and all this music got them fried out of their brains. And them going to the club and all this stuff. This is what I tell you guys in so many videos. Especially when you're a younger person. Focus on God. People talk about, oh, your young years are your years to live your best life. The best life you could ever have is your life with God. There's no other life that's better than that. You're going after the world, all you're going to end up doing is destroying yourself and getting demonized. And end up getting destroyed by Satan and end up getting punished by God. You ain't gonna win nothing in the end. You're gonna come out empty. You're gonna end up feeling lonely, depressed, angry. You ain't gonna win nothing in the end. But you see this so often in society. You see all these young people demonized. You got young people wearing all this stuff, talk about anti-social club and all this stuff. Like, I'm a type of person, I like my space, but why would you just want to be anti-social? Even Jesus had friends. He had the 12 disciples. Even he had a team around him. All the followers of God in the Bible all had some type of friend. And you guys talk about anti-social. You don't want to be around nobody. You don't want nobody. Listen, even with me being a homebody, I spend most of my time at home. Even I got people to associate with. Even I got people I got friends with. Because in this life, you need friends. You need connections. What you gonna do? Just sit in a house, sit in a corner by yourself with nobody for the rest of your life? What you gonna do? Go on an island by yourself and just sit and have nobody around you? That made no sense. You need some type of support in life. You need some type of people to help you. You cannot do this life alone. None of us can. Like I said, even Jesus had the 12 disciples around him to help promote the kingdom of heaven after he went back to heaven. But nevertheless, guys, these school shootings, I strongly suggest, if you're a parent, especially if you're a follower of Christ, you're a Christian parent, I strongly suggest, if you got the money, homeschool your kids or put them in private school. Because a lot of these public schools, all types of chaos is happening. You got kids fighting, kids beating each other up and putting it on Instagram, putting it on Facebook, putting it on WorldStar. People putting these stuff on TikTok. You got all these challenges that these kids are doing in schools. You got all these challenges like in New York City, for example. You got kids hopping on top of a train talking about they subway surfing. And next thing you know, some of them end up getting hurt or God forbid, they taken out of here. These schools, they have too many bad influences, these public schools. If you have your child in public school and if you got the money, I strongly suggest homeschool or private school. Or if you can, if you really can, get you a good public school. But nevertheless, because a lot of these public schools, bad influences, Many of these kids are demonized, and many of them don't want God. You even have these young people dissing God nowadays. I remember when I was in high school, I seen a couple guys in my art class talk about, oh, they don't believe in God, and the next guy talking about, oh, he's a God. So you got all these negative influences, these bad influences in these high schools and society. So strongly suggest, if you can, put your kid in homeschool or private school. But nevertheless, you see, society, you guys took God out of the situation, and now Satan is running rampant in these schools. And you know why? You know why God's allowing it to happen? You know why? Because you guys took him out of the situation. You took him out of it. People be trying to blame God off the times when people need to blame themselves. God will help you if you let him in. That's why the Bible says knock. Jesus is knocking at the door, but it's up to you to let him in. God's knocking at the door, not physically, but in the spirit realm, he's knocking, and it's up to you to let him in. It's up to you to let him in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, in your life. It's up to you, because God's not going to force himself on you. You have free will. One thing about God, he does not change his principles. He gave us free will, and it's up to us if we choose to let him in. But nevertheless, it's just until you guys put God back in school, until you allow prayer to come back in schools, until this generation starts becoming more firm and rooted in the principles of God, you're going to see a lot of this chaos happening. Because many people, they just want to live life their way and just go down the path that they want to go down. So guys, just take care.